All right, welcome back to just another solar podcast with Luke Beattie. That's me, Karl Jensen. G'day, Karl.
Luke, 30 degrees in Melbourne. We're laughing. At last.
Last weather report for the year. Industry legend Nigel Morris, how are you?
I'm good. G'day, team. 32 here on the northern beaches of Sydney. But a beautiful day. Beautiful day.
Good.
System's pumping. Couldn't be happier.
Yeah. And after skipping last episode, Jess McPherson is back.
I'm back.
Decided
baby.
to join us. Yep.
Well, there wasn't a piss up for me to go to instead, so yeah, I did decide I would roll in today.
How was the work Christmas party?
Oh, it was pretty wild. It was pretty good. Yeah. We had a couple bevies, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very good. I won't give the weather report. I think we've had enough of that.
We've had enough of that, and we're at the end of the year. Can you believe 2026 is done? I don't know where this year went. It seems like there were two sides of this coin. Massive.
There was a lot
the first
happened
half
this
of the year. Yeah. Announcements of battery schemes, industry almost coming to a standstill. And then from the 1st of July, it's just been a deluge, I think is the correct word.
It's the correct word.
And it's not stopping in the tail end of the year. Like, I'm sure a lot of businesses are like ours, but our inquiries have, been really high consistently, and they're sort of spiking up at this end part of the year where usually people are just thinking about Christmas and, won't call you back. And here we are with, all these extra people to try and talk to.
Can I get a battery tomorrow, please?
Yeah. Can it be installed this year still? I want the 2025 STCs.
Yeah.
And on that note, last episode, Nigel, you broke the news, and we had a call with the minister last weekend about how the BSTCs are going to change. And there's going to be thresholds and scaling. We've had a bit of time to digest that. So what are your thoughts on the impact to industry and to the program?
Well, there was actually a story that came out today that kind of highlighted the trajectory that the scheme was heading if it didn't get adjusted, which was 14 billion. And so it had to be adjusted. It was running way too hot, and they had to find a way to make the budget work, like every other budget in the government's budget. So, on that count, I think 5 billion is a mind-blowing amount. It's one of the biggest ever. The changes in the sizes and the timing of it, the vast majority of people, massive majority of people I've spoken to have gone, we can work with that. We can work with that. It's not ideal. You never like anything to change, and now it's going to change every 6 months after that. Probably it's got an adjustment mechanism in it, which is a bit annoying, but that safeguards their budget so that they can keep it tuned in and keep it running and trickle that flow out, which addresses a whole lot of problems potentially too by trying to slow things down just a little bit. I actually don't think it's going to slow down very much, frankly. I think everyone has twigged to how cool batteries are.
Do you think it's hard for people who are booked quite a ways in advance already?
Of course it is. Of course it is. They've got to go back to those customers and talk about the impacts. But I was actually on the phone with someone just the other day who was going through that and going, but hang on, I still get 100% up to 14 kilowatt hours, and I still get 60% up to 28. 28, 24.
Yeah, it's 28.
28, yeah. 28, yeah. So when you do the maths, it's a few $1,000, but it's not tens of thousands of bucks. Obviously, that varies.
Really appreciate that too, Nigel.
Sorry?
The numbers, the 14 and 28, that'll be the new iStore batteries, like 7 kilowatt hour bricks. So perfect. Thanks.
You and every other battery manufacturer, I suspect, Karl.
Every time Karl says iStore, I can hear a cash register in the background. We need that voiceover. iStore, cha-ching.
No, look, that's good. That's the other thing I'm really stoked about is we talk to a lot of OEMs, of course, and I get to chat to lots of people, and most of them are going, okay, a bit of a pain in the ass, but okay, all right, off we go. So let's see. Yeah.
We've had a few interesting conversations offline before we clicked record, and one of those conversations was around AC coupled batteries being the winner, Nige, in your opinion. Now,
Karl's got a view. He put up the view that it was a really huge year for DC coupled. I threw back and I reckon I saw more acceptance and uptake of AC coupled stuff than I've seen forever. I don't know what the ratios are, but I feel like it was probably a pretty good year for them too, especially because the retrofit market got slapped into existence in WA, and they tried to slap it into existence in Victoria as well. And so, yeah, I feel like it was probably good for AC coupled. Karl doesn't.
Karl?
Oh, I just think that there's a potential there for systems not working. So I went to help someone set up Wi-Fi on their heat pump. And I said, really want to know about your new battery out the front. Anyway, we went and had a look at it. And I said, it's flat. It's midday. What's happening? And turns out I knew the installer of the original PV system. And I gave him a call. And I said, can you have a look at this in your monitoring? And he says, sure. I said, what date did it stop working? And he says, 20th of July. I said, that's funny. That was the same day that the battery got installed. So she hasn't seen any savings. Battery hasn't worked. Solar hasn't worked since the 20th of July. And she said the installer was there for 2.5 days for the battery. And it's an AC coupled thing. And I thought, that's half a day's work.
Why would that be an issue with the AC coupled battery, though? That sounds like the installer's a bit of a flog, maybe. Like, it doesn't really sound like the issue is that it's an AC coupled battery.
No, not an issue that it's an AC coupled battery, but now you've got two people. The original guy says, well, I don't have to fix it because it's not mine. I didn't break it. It was working until that guy turned up. And the guy that turned up to do the battery, he says, well, it wasn't my system and I didn't touch that. So all of a sudden you've got a scenario where little old lady, literally little old lady, doesn't even know that her gear isn't working, and that's why her power bill has got worse rather than better.
So I'm hearing you would endorse AC coupled batteries as long as it's installed by the same person who installed the original system. I don't feel like that's what you're trying to say.
McPherson in with a pitch.
Having the original installer, she paid $8,000 versus $10,000 with the original installer, and she said that extra $2,000 was a deal breaker for her in terms of financial stuff. And she paid $8,000 for what I would consider to be a $4,000 battery. So, kudos to the installer for getting himself $2,000 a day. It's not a bad wage to put in a battery, even if you don't get it right. If you had have simply plugged the array into the battery and thrown the original inverter away, it would have been sweet.
So we've got two installers. We've got different manufacturers between the battery and the inverter. And we've got a lady who doesn't really know what's happening with her system. I think we're going to see this more and more. And when you approach someone, they're going to point to the guy who installed the battery, and the battery installer is going to point to the guy who installed the solar and say there was an issue there. I think we're going to see heaps of that.
I think it's a really good point and to throw it back the other side, when people are trying to DC couple batteries onto, like, rip out the existing inverter, and there's a fault with the panels, and the installer is saying, well, I didn't install the panels, and the panel installer is saying, well, you've gone and touched the system since. Why would it be my fault? So I do think you raise a really interesting point, but it goes on both sides. It's not just it's both AC/DC coupled batteries.
I think the installer that puts in the battery is going to end up having to take responsibility for the other system as well anyway. So that argument that I'm not touching that other system, he's still in a position where he's going to have to do something if, something happened the day that he happened to be there.
I mean, this is where sophisticated solar companies do all sorts of clever things, though, right? Because there are lots of ways of solving that problem. Some say, let me take ownership of it. I'll just own the whole thing, and I'll just give you cheap electricity or whatever, and I'll own the asset for you. So you don't have to worry about that. So there are options out there for people like that little old lady who, unfortunately, she didn't know that she needed that. But there are options like that out there too that suit different people, right? Different.
Look,
strokes.
the complicating factor is the CSIP, the network requirements. So the original system was installed when CSIP was a thing. So the next guy doesn't want to have the argument, discussion, whatever, with the network operator, change it over from one to the other, because it just soaks up a massive amount of time. Yeah. So he just goes, well, I'll leave that.
And that's a messy area that needs work.
Very messy. Very messy.
It is a messy area that needs work.
Anyway, the moral of the story, use the installer that did your solar system if you possibly can.
Always.
So Messi is trying to get in all the systems before the 1st of Jan that people need to for the BSTCs that they've factored in before the deeming period, before the deeming changes. And it's interesting that we've had this restriction on how many systems can be signed off. So 2 systems per day for an installer. And there's been some ambiguity or a lot of confusion around that. And the SAA has made an announcement yesterday around this, Jess?
Yes, to read from the wonderfully provided SEC brief that I have in front of me here. Thanks, SEC. So SAA requirements allow no more than 2 installations per day, blah, blah, blah. So to support installers who've misunderstood how the installation limits are applied, SAA will offer special consideration for relief on installations that occur between 1st of July and 22nd of December 2025, aka where you've got like these messy, you've come back to a site that you mostly finished, or a photo didn't upload for some reason or whatnot. They're saying that there will be some leniency there, is what it sounds like to me. Is that how you guys would interpret that?
I reckon between now and the 22nd, which is 3 days away, we'll put in 50 systems a day. Do it.
Read the information sheet. I read through the whole lot. There's about 5 different documents that the info sheet summarizes it, and then you can go deeper and deeper. I went through them all, and it doesn't seem unreasonable. In fact, I mean, the fact that they've spontaneously come out with this, well, not spontaneously, I guess, but they have now finally come out with it, which is awesome news, because some people just did get caught out inadvertently, right, and didn't understand it or whatever. Fine, I heard stories about people who potentially had jobs that they'd installed over a 4 or 5 day period, or they were interrupted by weather, and then they end up having, they could do 4 or 5 or 6 systems on a day because all the work's been done. They've done all this prep. So
definitely that's been the case for us, where we've had a few, a few days where like SA has been pretty rainy up until this point. And now we're coming into like it'll rain and then it'll be a 40-degree day. But, like it's really hard for the guys to manage that, and being able to go back to say 3 jobs rather on the final day of the week and just polish everything off doesn't quite work, right?
No.
With how it currently is.
So it's really good that they've brought this out, right? It's not a catch-all for everything. And if you go and put 50 jobs in, my guess is they'll reject them, and there's a fee. So you want to be fucking serious about it, and you want to have lots of evidence to show that it's been the case. And if that is the case and you got caught up, there's an opt-out for you to get that support, which I think is just unreal. So, and it's just one-off, right? It's just that 1 6-month period. It's like the rest of the time, you got to get it right.
Sure. The deeming period's changing, which means people will get less for their BSTCs. And SIG Energy's done something interesting, Jess. Throw to you again.
Yes, they have done something interesting. I would love to be happier about this, to be clear. I'd love to be a lot happier about it. It's really wonderful that they gave an amount per module. I've got it in my little screenshots here. So it's a $300 discount for 8 kilowatt-hour modules and $200 discount for 5 kilowatt-hour modules, valid for purchases between 1st of January and 30th of April 2026, which is wonderfully vague, especially when the previous terminology was installed.
Is that around the same as the drop in what it would be at the change in the deeming period? Yeah. Yeah,
correct. Because then we're May, right? So April, May, like that's the exact period. But what's really frustrating about it is A, that it's very vague. And B, that in the comments of that post in the SIG Energy installer page, Will does clarify that the offer is based on purchases between 1st of January and 30th of April, provided as an upfront discount from your distributor. So that means if you have stock yourself, if you pre-ordered stock and you're warehousing it, you can't benefit from this.
Which is always the advice, right? We always say to secure stock, particularly with the rebate happening and firing. So it's punishing the companies that did the right thing, got in early, secured the stock, put it in the warehouse.
And how's a sales team supposed to know that they can who they can give that discount to or not? Because, that's it's a very difficult thing to manage as a business. And, you could just pocket the money, I guess, which is, potentially what a lot of people will do. But
I got the solution, Jess. You need to
really?
just send all of that stock back. Send that stock back.
And hope that I can get it when I need it in next year.
Send it back.
Jensen,
right,
gold.
Okay.
Cheers. You're welcome.
I don't love it, Karl.
I had someone buy 6 heat pumps this week for the Christmas shutdown, and they said, if we can't sell them, can we bring them back? And I said, sure, no problem. They rings me today and said, we need another 6. Very busy. But yeah, we do that for people all the time.
Yep.
There you go. All right.
I'll tell our rep that you sent us, Karl. I'll let him know that you personally sent
No
us.
problem.
Jensen said it's okay.
No problem.
They actually love it if you just send the stock back without notice. Just send it to their warehouse.
What is this doing?
Distributors
Yeah.
and manufacturers love it. So just you don't need to ask permission. Just send it there. Won't be any issues. So just recapping some of the year, I've got a few points here. So first of all, the Cheap Home Batteries program. This is the year of the batteries now. And it's put us, Nigel, what are we up to? 180,000 thereabouts?
175 by the end of the year, they're saying. Yeah.
Unreal. So we're now world leading. That's been a big thing, which has caused a battery boom. So we've seen the uptake. We've seen larger systems. So the average battery size has gone up about 10 kilowatt hours. I'm curious if the change in the thresholds is going to have an impact on that, but we'll find out in the new year. VPPs seem to be streaming ahead, and the uptake levels are still quite low as a percentage, but in terms of numbers, even with that low percentage, the numbers are massive when you look at how many home batteries have gone in. Electrification and EVs is mainstream now. The Electrify Everything movement, Carl Jensen, you and your mates, like Saul Griffith and the like, are out there spreading the gospel, and it seems that it's really mainstream. Like it used to be this fringe groups on Facebook pages, and now you can just be having a conversation at the pub or a gathering, and people are talking about electrification, getting off gas. So I think it's mainstream, yeah.
It's funny, you go to a few Christmas parties this time of year with people you wouldn't normally associate with, and they say, it's so shit that Australia is giving away its natural resources to other countries and we're forced to use renewables. And it's like, mate, I make my own power. I don't buy it from anyone else. Why would I want to buy power from someone else? I just make it myself, just landing on my fucking roof. Ridiculous.
There's so many angry trolls on LinkedIn. So you get a post that's pro-renewables, it's actually a good thing, and you get all these
Nige
angry
gets
trolls.
some good ones.
Oh, yeah? What do you get, Nige?
I get plenty. I've had to opt out of a lot. I just went, there's too much noise here. I just can't.
My boss says to me from time to time, do you need a break? And I'm like, water off a duck's back, mate. I don't give a shit.
It's a good point, though, like coming up to the Christmas barbecue season, right? And, I think it's been a thing for a while where you get out the app and you're sort of showing off and doing a bit of the keeping up with the Joneses and whatnot. But it's really hit a new stride in the last year or so.
It has. Yeah, it really has. When I had my, it was dressed up as my son's 18th party, but it was actually a solar and battery system launch party. And I ended up with about 10 people around the battery. All my buddies were there and their kids, and they all got it. They all got it. They went, this is what it looks like. Yeah, right. All my mates are getting
And it's the bong, Nige.
How big is it? Well, it was an 18th, mate, but everything that went on was Rafi's fault. So I was just the parent trying to keep things under control, mate. But it was a good launch.
Herding cats, yeah.
Did you give them the short version, Nige, or did you give them the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Pull the app out. And everyone gets an app, right? Everyone uses apps all the time now. So you can show someone and go, here you go, here's what it does, look. And they go, oh, yeah.
So recalls this year, we had the big one was Sig Energy, biggest recall we've seen due to some plugs that were suboptimal. I think that's a phrase I'll use. Suboptimal to be non-controversial. So they had that, but interesting to see parallels between Sig and Tesla in that when there were safety issues identified, they remotely accessed the batteries, they were able to identify the batteries, and we're crossing fingers and hope that for new entrants to market and these super duper duper cheap batteries that they're going to be able to do similar things if they similarly have safety issues. That's a big question mark.
I think it's a great point, Luke. That was a really cool advancement that, coordinated, well-managed remote safety deactivations or adjustments and stuff can be done. That's how we should be using this gear. It's capable of, good gear is capable of that. And that's what you pay for, right?
I want to get into the recycling business, Nigel. I hear that it's $3 a kilo to recycle LFP batteries. So 500 kilos on the side of the house that doesn't work, it's $1,500. I'll take it away and bury it on the farm,
No, we can do much better than that, Carl. I've got to introduce you to Darren and his team. We got the best stewardship and recycling team.
Darren's been on the pod. Not only is he knowledgeable, he's like super passionate. Like, interesting point. Who was that recycling mob in South Australia who were recycling panels going back about 5 years, and they went broke, and then they found out all they were doing was knocking the frames off, recycling the aluminium, and just stockpiling the rest of the panels.
That's going to be me with LFP batteries. I'm going to get a warehouse.
I love how everyone's like nervously chuckling, like
We're chuckling because some of these batteries are cheaper than buying it's cheaper to buy one of these batteries than it is to get 5 cubic meters of dirt dropped out the front.
Are you gonna get an old Model 3 and put the car battery on your wall like some people have been doing, Carl? Is that
I already have one. I bought one for the kids, so if she writes it off, that's what's going to happen to that battery. I'll screw it to the wall. Yeah, absolutely.
There's been a few false starts on riding the car off, Carl.
Yeah, we've had 2 hits so far, but it still drives, so it's all good. No problem.
Yep.
Beautiful.
All right, so just wrapping up the year, I want to go through and do a few questions. So I want to see who you think your biggest winner of the year is, your biggest loser, and your prediction for next year.
Jess is ready.
Mine's obvious. I really stewed on this today. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I kept coming back to trying to have like a niche take, but it's got to be the cheaper battery program. Like it has to be, not only because where the industry was before this took us was there were a lot of people really struggling for a while there in the early part of this year. And this breathed so much life back into the industry. Even the parts, we've had people on this podcast that do stuff that absolutely, such a little relevance to battery specifically, and they're still flying along because it's just, everyone's rising with the tide, and I think that's incredible.
My original winner was batteries as well, but now that you talk about it, I go, no, actually the winner is the NEM, because we're reshaping the NEM, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking because a lot of it isn't coordinated. It's negaload, and it's not coordinated. So, that was talked about by the AMC in their report about the benefit that it could bring by coordinating it. So, that's my loser as well. So my winner is the scale of it and how much it has changed the NEM, but the loser is that there's a ton of it that we aren't leveraging.
Yeah, there's another loser there too. That's vehicle to grid. Definitely done, dusted. Can't do it. It doesn't make any sense financially.
How many gigawatt hours of potential is in V2G currently, Carl?
Oh, it'd be a lot.
Yeah.
No, off the top of your head, get a napkin out. Do the
You haven't got number?
Look, for the sake of argument, we're still only doing
Carl's off his game.
10%, 100,000 new cars. So for the sake of argument, there's less than 500,000 cars on the road. And for the sake of argument, you've got 20, 30 kilowatt hours that you'd be prepared to play with. So
I don't think vehicle to grid is a loser, because
this
year we've seen within the standards there's been provision made for it. Policy, pilots. In fact, that's going to be one of the other questions is about our prediction for next year. My prediction is that that's going to get up and going, vehicle to grid. We're going to see after these pilot programs, we know that those inverter and EV charging manufacturers that don't have bi-directional chargers in market, most of them do have the technology and they're just waiting for it, basically for it to take off. Part of that is the warranty provisions from EV manufacturers. And from what I understand, anecdotally, a couple of them have made provision within their warranties. So my prediction, Carl, you're saying it's a loser because it didn't happen immediately this year and you've got 3 EVs in the garage. Yep. But my prediction for next year is not that it's going to go off the charts like home batteries have, but I think next year is going to be the breakout year for vehicle to grid in Australia.
So I reckon the number's 10 gigawatt hours rolling around that is accessible.
10 gigawatt hours?
Yeah. So it's a lot more than that. It's probably 30 gigawatt hours, but you can't use someone's whole battery because you take away the utility from the car. So I reckon 30% of the battery capacity is probably something that you'd be prepared to cycle occasionally. You're not going to do it every day simply because we're going to effectively put twice as many Ks on the car than just driving it down the road. And as a manufacturer that, 4-year warranty, 8-year warranty, whatever it is, I'm not going to all of a sudden turn it into 16 years.
Money talks, mate. Price signals talk. Nigel gave the example from China where people are rushing down to public bi-directional chargers when they get the price signal. So if that opportunity is sitting in your garage, and even it can be automated, so you've got a certain amount of charge you keep for a standard day, which can be overridden.
Energy's too cheap. That's
You know what your blocker is?
Energy's too cheap.
You know what? Your blocker is the fact that if there's 10 gigawatt hours of potential, call it 20 if you want, right? Double it, Karl. There's 40 in the batteries that are going to go in the next year or so. We're going to get to 40 by the end of the program. And so it's only about how fast we get there, right? So in another year, maybe that is 10 a year.
Energy's too cheap, Nigel.
10.
That's the problem. Energy's too cheap. Energy needs to be twice the price, then we'll be laughing.
We do have a customer we've done some service work for them anyway, and they have 3 Nissan Leafs. And one of them they drive around, one of them they sort of drive around. But there's basically 1.5 Leafs sitting in their driveway, just trading energy on the grid. And I don't think this guy thinks he's like paying for those cars. He's doing it because he thinks it's cool. And good for him. Like, absolute legend. I don't even want to think about how much he spent on that setup for when he did it.
That is an amazing upside you put forward there, Jess. So when I look at my old model, my Model 3 that I bought first, it's depreciated 50 grand in 3 years.
Yeah.
So what's another 5 if I do V to G with it? I don't care. I've already lost 50. It doesn't matter.
I don't think you're going to convince the ROI people, but...
Make the asset productive rather than having it just sit there, right?
It's better to just use it to shred tyres, mate. That's the go.
Morty Alec.
I was going to say, use it to shuttle the recycled batteries out to the farm, Karl.
That's a good idea. Right. Yeah, we need a big trailer though. Shit, we're going to need a truck.
It's all about runs to the farm. Yeah.
So, any other predictions for next year? Who hasn't gone?
I haven't done a prediction. Did we get through all our winners? Are we skipping?
No, we've sort of jumped all over the place, but I'm sticking with predictions.
Can I have another winner?
Yeah, sure.
OVO and Glowbird. Absolute winners. That 11 till 2 free period, and obviously the government knows that it's happening and wants it to happen more, and Chris has announced 11 till 2, or sorry, he's announced that he needs to give away 3 hours of free power whenever that happens to happen with whatever retailer. But that's absolute game changer for Australians and electrification. Heat your house, heat your water, charge your car, charge your home battery, all of those things. It's a very cool thing. That's a massive thing. So
that's a good winner. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Shout out to Minister Bowen. No, he listens occasionally.
So I got 9,000 kilowatt hours from OVO this year at an average cost of 1.9 cents a kilowatt hour.
Wow.
That's just bonkers, right?
That's bonkers.
I think it is. I think it's going to adjust the way people design systems, though. Like in the sense that, like, it almost becomes a game of like, what are we doing in a day? If that makes sense, because it's kind of like if chucking, if doing 2 or 3 less panels or whatever, like means that you can get it done in a 2-day job instead of a 3-day job. And then you're obviously, doing a bit better by the customer, unless you're one of these skeevy guys that's installing an AC battery for 3 days or whatever you said, Karl. But, like the good players, right? Yeah. And then you can just tell that customer, like don't overinvest in, a couple of extra panels for just like a short amount of the year where you just, you can just grab a little bit of power from those 3 hours and sail through. Like that's incredible.
It does come unstuck in winter with an all-electric house with an EV for 2 months because you've only got 15 kilowatts, 14.5 kilowatts that you can pull from the grid in an hour. And if you run it flat out for 3 hours, you will trip that breaker. And it's pretty easy to pull 45 kilowatt hours in an all-electric house with a couple of electric cars. So it can definitely run out of mumbo there.
The whole year's circled back around to circuit
breakers.
We always land back here, boys, every time.
Hey, I've seen a few of those pictures online. People go, have a look at my great install, and they show a picture of their circuit board, and you're like, well, the circuit breaker for the inverter and the circuit breaker for the main switch are jammed up against each other, and you're like, well, those are the 2 hottest things in the board. That's going to fail. Beauty. Good job.
Circuit breakers.
Yeah, winner.
I don't know. Those of you who've seen on our socials, the host of our podcast came up with a Wrapped for the year, And the most used word, or the biggest word that we had for the year, was batteries, and they just did a compilation of us saying batteries. Some of the other cool facts from the Spotify Wrapped, it actually lists the favourite artists of our listeners. So I think it's a couple of hundred people where we're their number one solar podcast. There's over 700 people where we're in their top 5. Taylor Swift is the number one artist for our listeners. Right.
Excellent.
The punchline's coming. Ooh. Luke Combs is number 2. Wow. Zach Bryan is number 3.
Oh.
Number 4, The Wiggles.
Are you going to sing us a tune, Luke, or what?
Not a chance. Number 5, Morgan Wallen is number 5. Oh. So I'm guessing, I don't know Morgan Wallen, but I'm looking at Luke Combs, Zach Bryan. I'm guessing country, but not sure. Top audio books. Number 1, The Trading Game by Gary Stevenson. Number 2, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Number 3, Frankie by Graham Norton. Number 4, Ready Player 2 by Ernest Klein. And number 5, friend of the show, Andy McCarthy, Here Comes the Sun.
Let's go!
Oh,
So shout out to Andy. And
I don't know any of those.
just a
other ones.
reminder that you can either get a hard copy of Andy's book, which is in bookstores around the place, or you can jump on Spotify and listen to the audiobook. Okay, podcasts. Any guesses for number one podcast of our listeners?
Solar Insiders.
That's strong.
Good guess. The Joe Rogan Experience, number 1.
Oh, really?
Of course. Cookers, plenty of cookers there. Yeah. Makes sense.
Cookers.
The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. Number 3, Energy Insiders. So shout out to Giles and David.
Oh,
very informative.
Charles. Yeah, great show.
G'day, guys. Yep. Number 4, Half-Assed History. Number 5, Case File True Crime.
Oh.
Who doesn't love true crime?
So I don't know how relevant that is to the solar industry
It's
in our wrap of the
interesting.
year, but it's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Skewed the figures for next year, that's for sure.
We've got a colourful cast of listeners for sure.
So next time you're driving past a solar install, you see guys on the roof, if they've got headphones in, the most probable artist is Taylor Swift. Go figure.
Did you want my prediction, Luke?
Yes.
My prediction is better monitoring. And most specifically, I would think we have pretty good monitoring, to be fair. But I'm predicting, but like I want to be able to see export limiting from DNSPs. It's a big thing here in SA, and as it spreads out across the rest of the country, I think it's so valuable both for customers and installers. Just to know, is a system, ramping itself down, or is there a problem? Having that nice and clear and visible, I think.
My
is
old
a
friends
big
at
step.
Catch had that
I
going.
know, but the Catch are the only ones. I want everyone to do it.
Yeah, it's a very important feature. I shout out to Catch for being ahead of the game on that one.
Top tier. And I also want easier force charging in batteries. I think there's some batteries that do it really well, but especially off the back of the free 3 hours, there are some batteries that it's much harder. It's much less intuitive. And I think that should be a big priority.
Who does it well, Jess?
Who does it well? I think Tesla does it pretty well. I think
Do
Sid
they?
does it pretty well.
Yep.
I think Sungrow does it quite well, maybe a little less intuitive than the F4 you mentioned. I don't pretend to be across all the apps, though. There might be some out there that
There's
are
a lot.
incredible that I just
There's
don't
a lot
know
to dive into out there.
so well. Yeah.
I tell people to run their batteries in TOU mode. That is, just charges at 11 till 2, no other time of the day, every other time of the day, exporting to the grid. I want to aim for it to be flat at 11 o'clock in the morning and fully charge it in that 3 hours. That's the most cost-effective way to operate your battery. But some people don't have the 3 free hours yet. It's coming next
But,
year.
like in the same breath, and I say with love in my heart, but the phroniest way of doing it is quite difficult. Like, it's not very intuitive for a customer. It requires a lot of tech savvy. And I know they're working on it, but like as an example of somebody who, I know they're working on it, but like, there's definitely room for improvement with a lot of the apps out there. I think
is.
even the ones that we say are doing it well, like, they could definitely do more to make it even easier.
Yeah, Poor Power Plus, since I've got my system, I've just been tormenting them. I'm deep into the back end,
What's
guys.
the Power
now.
Plus
going,
app like for that? Is it good?
It's fine. It's pretty simple, but it gives me enough information to be able to dig in. I can see each of the batteries differently, so I can drill in, but usually I just keep it on an aggregate view of the whole system, so I get a sort of bit of an average between the two batteries, depending on how they're behaving. And we've actually been playing with the batteries because, of course, you need to, going back to your point about setup and the challenges of setup, even with two batteries of the same type, you can set them up to behave differently and in quite a lot of different ways. And so getting that dialed in a little bit has been something we've been working through, making sure that I stay within the export limits that I've got, and also bearing in mind that I'm going to start trading probably in the new year. So I'm going to change everything up, and then there'll be the 3 hours of free too. So I'll be playing with that then. So, I'll go to a very different mode. And I'm lucky. I know some wonderful, really clever people. So I ring them and, relentlessly hassle them with, dubious, stupid questions. But I'm lucky I can do that. But for the little old lady we talked about before, she doesn't even know what questions to ask.
I reckon EV charger integration at the moment for everyone sucks. Doesn't matter who it is, it sucks. Sungrow sucks. SIG sucks. iStore sucks. Everybody sucks. It's just difficult to do. It's a lot of setup. And Nigel's waving his hand saying he reckons it sucks too. That might be someone else in the background.
What don't you like about it, Karl? I agree with you, but which bit do you want to change?
It's just tedious to set it up to make it work properly. There's quite a few steps involved. And everything, so there's different strategies here. Zappy strategy has CTs and works entirely independently of your solar system. Finn did a good article on that. It can make a complete disaster of the whole thing with export limits and so on. It ramps it down, thinks that there's an export limit there, even though it could be making more. That's a fail. You've got grid load control. Do I want to push the power that I've got to my EV, or do I want to push it to my home battery? I've got no control over that. And just simply setting it up, people having lots of problems. So call tech support, nobody there, send us an email, get a response from an email 2 weeks later, installer's long gone from site, and we've just got a dumb charger there that happens to have an inverter brand on it. I just think that there's nobody's got that right yet. We're just a ways away. And of course the networks complicate that, because in South Australia you've got a network constraint, in Queensland you've got a network constraint, in Victoria you've got CSIP. So all of these things make that particular problem very complex. And importantly, all of these people that have bought a battery that's way too big for their needs, they're looking for somewhere to dump the power, and the most obvious thing to do is buy an EV, which they should have done first. But that's something that they want. So we've got to really improve in that space. That was a bit of a rant. Jess, you're finding the same thing, yeah?
Yeah, look, there's definitely some that are better than others. I think for a lot of people, they feel like they've just got a lot of places to look after they have an EV charger installed. And, some of those ones that have integrated solutions, so like if you've got a Tesla car and a Tesla, Sungrow charger and a Sungrow, SIG charger and a SIG, and we could go on ad nauseum. There's lots of those sorts of combinations. I think that helps. But I do agree with you. I think people find it confusing, and it gets to a point where those smart charging features feel too hard. So they pay for it and then they don't end up using it very much. They essentially use it a bit more plug and play because it just feels like a lot of effort, which is a real shame. And that's not everyone, but I just think like your general consumer.
I agree with Finn Peacock's method, which is timers are a winner, and just set everything to charge at 11 till 3 and don't worry about anything else. I'm trying to grab as much of that free renewable energy on the grid as I possibly can, even if it's costing someone else 25 cents.
Between that and the batteries, you're a winner, Karl. I haven't done a prediction, but I didn't do my homework. I've been too busy. But I think next year is clearly it's an easy prediction, actually. Yet again, it's going to be mind-blowing and epic. What we saw happen this year, next year, we're going to do at least double or maybe triple that, right? In terms of what we put in, what sold, installed, designed, installed, every part of that, right? Regulated, trained. I've been talking to people about training a bit this week, and the number of people going through training to get into the industry is huge, right? So there's so many factors at play. So 2026 is just going to be yet another epic year of epic growth, and the majority of it in residential batteries.
Hold on for the ride. Has everyone done their prediction, Karl?
Oh, well, I'm predicting that people get their EV chargers sorted out.
Oh, next year.
That's next year.
After all that moaning.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, there's no getting past it. There's a lot of variables here. And the car's a variable too, right? So it's only Tesla that's got an active API that can talk to the car, and Charge HQ absolutely nailed that. But for every other car, it's shit.
Well, that comes back again. And, I banged on about this once or twice in years gone by about the value of monitoring and all that software, right? And Jess raised it as an issue too. It's still, you're right. No one's really nailed that software space. It's a tough space. It's a really tough space, and that combo of needing hardware that can talk to, that's agnostic enough to talk and control in multiple ways, and then just a seamless, beautiful, all we want is a seamless, beautiful layer over the whole lot that's really easy.
The point here, we want it to work in all the states that have different regulations and requirements. Coming back to that call for standardization across all networks, DNSPs,
centrally supported, of
states. Yeah, well, you can't get everything, but just standards and regulations that are uniform around the country.
Yeah.
So industry and OEMs and everyone else involved can just adhere to one set of rules.
Here's a prediction for next year then, talking about all of that, because one of the things that I have been fortunate enough to learn a bit about is how many people are motivated to make it better. Whether it's multiple groups of people meeting multiple times a year just to talk about the New South Wales CSIP development. I sit on one of those committees. We meet once a month. There's 2 or 3 reference committees. Lots of involvement from government. We've got professionals helping, make the meetings productive and successful, and sharing information well and all that kind of stuff. So those meetings are going on all over the place with all sorts of amazing people with amazing brains trying to solve different parts of the whole thing. And, in the background, you've got a 100-year-old energy system that we're flipping on its head. So, it's tricky. But back to predictions, next year, I reckon a lot of those barriers and technical challenges and rules and regulations, I think we're going to see more change.
So is it WA that wants CSIP 1.4 or something? It's a later version than everybody. 1.3? 1.3. CSIP 1.3. And of course, everyone says, well, we haven't managed to get our head through CC 1.1 yet.
Crazy.
Well, that's a great example, right? That's another thing that I reckon we'll see next year, because I know there are loads of clever people trying to coordinate all the CSIP stuff nationally. So they're not just looking at a state, but how do we just get all this aligned and make it more sensible and rational for everybody? Because the costs of this are enormous for manufacturers, enormous.
Yeah, absolutely.
So losers. I'm going to jump back in with I was going to go with the coalition's energy policy, just that they're heading back towards that 100-year-old machine. My word to them isn't that we're against them. The industry will work with whoever's in government and whoever the policymakers are. It just seems a bit strange that they're going to fall on that sword time and time again. When Pandora's box is open, we're going through the transition already. You can't jam it all back in the box, if you know the old Greek fable. It's happening now, and they just, this fringe of the coalition are just intent to make sure that coal's still going, that we're going with gas, that this is just a horrific disaster. The battery scheme's a disaster. Renewables are a disaster. And there's scare campaigns, intermittent renewables, and we're not going to survive without all these fossil fuels and all the rest of it. So I think that their policy is there. My advice, not that anyone would listen to me on this, is that
hey, you never know.
Is to pick other areas to grandstand or to poke your chest out and to say we're going to really have this fight, because it is. I hate to generalize here. It's an old white man's issue with the energy transition. The current generation, even those who are socially conservative, even those who have a bent more towards a coalition's policies, still seem to be... You have a chat to the young people. I chat to young people about energy and fossil fuels, and even the conservative ones accept that we're in an energy transition. So, and we're all working together.
Makes sense to me. I actually went through an exercise last month of actually jumping into like an anti-renewable Facebook group because I'd seen a bit of stuff about it. And yeah, well, I thought, it doesn't hurt every now and again to go, let me see if I can put myself in someone else's shoes. And, I did see people who just clearly loved the land, right? They were just farmers and they just loved their land and they loved the biodiversity that they had, and they just felt like they had to protect it at all costs. And, I can understand that. If you live in the country in some of the most beautiful parts in Australia, you go, man, this should never change. This should stay exactly like this forever because it's awesome. And, we have to protect so much, we have to protect the right lands. We all know that, right? But the whole thing has been smothered in confusion and a lack of facts. And so what I did for a few weeks was I just followed a lot of posts where there was one about the danger of being poisoned by the rainwater that ran off your solar panels. And it was okay. Look, here's the link to the best study I can find that shows that you're completely wrong about this with the greatest of respect. Here's the study. Check it out. You might find it interesting, right? So not arguing with them, but just throwing stuff back at them. And I saw one yesterday actually that was there isn't enough land in Australia for this renewable shit to work. And I went, actually, here's a link to the diagram that shows you exactly how big it is. It's about 1,200 square kilometres. It's not very big at all. Here you go. So,
I'm looking forward to more accent work from you in future, Nige. That was good. That's my 2026 prediction.
Like it was a really interesting exercise to put yourself in other people's shoes and go, look, I can understand why this is not working for you. So, I want to have empathy and try and see if there are ways that we can work around that. That's some of the engagement stuff that we do and fact sharing, right?
I think that's wonderful though, Nige, right? Like nobody wants to be told that they're wrong. And, especially people who feel like they're under attack and they're defensive already because like you say, they're trying to do something that we do actually agree with. We want to keep how beautiful the country we live in is. And, to be able to say as gently as you possibly can, right, that, yeah, I agree. And here's why this is not going to affect that or, whatever it is. That's a wonderful thing to be able to do.
Yeah, you're so nice, Nigel. So those people, I tell them to disconnect from the grid, freeze to death in the dark for all I care.
I've seen your work on social media, Karl.
If you don't need the power, that's fine. Everybody else does. But if you don't want it, just disconnect.
Yeah.
Freeze to death in the dark.
Yeah.
God.
No, look, it was a good thing. It's a good thing. I encourage everyone to do it, right? To try and put themselves in other people's shoes and go, how can we help? Maybe there are some problems in there that we need to work on.
But maybe don't
well.
join the conspiracy theory Facebook pages.
Oh,
maybe
no,
we don't have to go
it
that
was
far.
3 weeks and I went, I can't do it anymore. I just can't because it just comes at you then. Oh, man. And so much of it was just garbage.
Well, one of the solar pages has morphed into conspiracy/solar. Kempy's page.
Oh, has it?
Yeah. Check it out. You've got solar. You've got solar. But it's got our people in there. It's got our industry people.
Kempy bailed me up at All Energy, and he was on a cooker rant there as well. And I just went, Kempy, come on, mate, you're a cooker. Stop it.
I had a good catch up with him. I had a beer with him and Scott Lever, and then walked around the show a little bit and got his thoughts. So. Yeah. Well,
I'm going to India at the end of January, early February. I got my immunisations and I had five injections. He'd be like spitting out. Vaccines, holy shit! I'm still here. I'm happy.
The poor people who are here for the solar news. I truly.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Kempy. He's got thoughts. He's got a lot of thoughts.
He's been iconic in the industry.
When
you think back on the last decade, you've got people like Kempy, you've got Longy.
To be fair, he did post a picture of his dick to Kane Thornton.
That is a true story.
Is it?
100%. And tagged him in it.
gosh.
Yeah.
Look, emotions run high sometimes in our industry, all right?
Passionate people.
What's that phrase where our industry is a broad church?
It is. It's very broad church.
So before we wrap up, I just want to check, are there any other winners, losers, predictions, or topics you guys would like to cover off?
My loser is people who were conned into 40 kilowatt hour batteries with 5 kilowatt inverters. Those are my losers, and I truly hope there's enough people out there who will service those people, like, you know, do service work or help them try and make that, you know, replace that inverter with something with a bit more guts or whatever it needs to be. But yeah, that's who I'm feeling for this year, and probably a good chunk of next year.
Maybe Tesla get that firmware update for 8 kilowatts of battery charging soon.
It's going to go up to full, actually. It's going to go up to 10.
10?
I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say that. I hope so.
Well, Powerball 2 and Powerball 3 are going to talk to each other next year, coming soon.
Well, that's TBD. That's Q5 until we see it, isn't it? But yeah, no, the fact that, like, being able to use those expansion packs, because I've been pretty shy on using them, but that update will really make it much, much more.
The life of a solar designer and sales expert. Hey,
In the
Jess
trenches,
McPherson.
mate.
You
In
are
the trenches.
so in the trenches. I will put a shout out to the people in the trenches like you, Jess. That is a hard
I gotta
job.
say, I'm
It's a tough
sort of
job.
in the trenches. The installers are truly in the trenches. They are the people who truly deserve the kudos.
That's so true.
40-degree days on a roof.
Yeah. Yeah, wind, wave,
may-
and especially how big panels are these days. They're bloody sails, and the guys are up there just getting blown around. Like, I feel so much for them. Bloody legends.
So
Big
hero of the year is the solar installer.
Here.
Because we talk about business, we talk about policy, we talk about technology. And if you guys weren't out there putting panels on roofs and installing this stuff compliantly, then none of us would be here. So thank you.
Yeah.
They can't even use a bootlace, Luke.
I was going to say, I think the installers have had the boot sunk into them enough in the last couple of months.
That's
We don't-
right.
The
One
bootlace.
final blow from Jensen.
So we'll go around. I just wanted to say as well, this is the year that we did video as well. So we're on YouTube. Thanks to those who jump on there. If you do choose to watch us and not just listen, please do subscribe. It's a slow burn for us. And, you know, we've really got great faces for podcasts and radio, but here we are.
You can watch me eat my little snacks today.
I meet lots of people who listen to the show as over the, you know, at various different places, and it's been interesting. And I've been watching the numbers, and it is starting to grow. And there are people going, yeah, I don't mind a bit of a watch. You know, I might put it on the side on my other screen or whatever, and I'll have a listen through my headphones, and, you know, yada yada yada. So there are definitely some watchers out there. Maybe we'll keep it going for next year. What do you think, Gene?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Jason, you didn't do any of it. Well, you shut up.
Yeah. It's fine by me. Fine.
You just
by
make
me,
it
yeah.
hard.
Luke's always said, I'm the talent. I'm the talent.
Yeah.
That's true. It's in his contract somewhere.
Well, we're going to wrap it up because Claire's been coming in there and checking in on you and saying, when are you coming down to is it the Newport Bolo?
Yeah, we're going to the Newport. Yeah.
So to wrap it up, last comments and anything else you'd like to say, we'll start with you, Jess.
With me, just a little bit of a shout out to the people in Sydney at the moment. I think the events in Bondi have hit everyone Australia wide. So just all my love to anyone who's feeling it. And just, it's sort of same sentiment for people trying to close up the year. I think there's going to be a lot of people with pressure to finish jobs this year or start work early next year and things like that. So anything anyone can do to take a proper break. Yeah, whatever you can do. We've got to take care of ourselves because we got a long, long run ahead of us.
That's true. Very true. And Karl, last comments.
My last comments, everyone have a good break, and thanks very much for listening to the podcast. Really appreciate that you do it, and that all of you guys, Jess, Nigel, Luke, that you guys all make the time to do it as well. It's great. I enjoy it.
Here. Nige.
Here. Yeah, look, I'm just going to give a shout out to everyone in solar and batteries, in solar and storage, because what a year. It's just been, this year's been epic for me. I had a career change after 9 years in the previous role, and a big change in what I'm doing. And I've just been, I have to say, I'm surrounded by the most wonderful, interesting people in this industry who all just want to do amazing, amazing things. And it's so much fun. Most of the time.
Awesome.
Sometimes it's really hard work, but
And just to let you listeners know, we're going to skip the next fortnight. So we'll be back in 4 weeks after resting, relaxing. Agree with what Jess said. Make sure you do have some downtime. Most of all, check in with friends, family, make the most of that time because next year is going to be massive. So take the opportunity, spend the time with your loved ones and eat, drink and be merry. And we'll catch you next year.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Tired of scrambling for CPD points at the last minute? With Southwell Solar Training, you can earn all 100 points for your accreditation without leaving home and without wasting time on boring, irrelevant courses. Our online training is practical, compliance-focused, and designed by industry pros who've actually been on the tools. Learn at your own pace, get your certificate instantly, and stay compliant without the stress. Check out the full course list now at southwellsolartraining.com.au and get your CPD the easy way.